Thank you for listening to this episode of Faces of Our Cities. I'm your host, Jesse, and today I'm with someone I'm really excited to meet with, Karen Gill. I have never actually met or talked to Karen before. When I think about how we got connected, to be honest, I think it was some sort of a comment on a LinkedIn post that turned into a soft pitch to convince Karen to talk to me for no reason whatsoever other than her tagline on her LinkedIn seemed like she was a really interesting person. And Karen, do I have that right?
Yeah, so I think I commented and you were kind of like, let's hop on a call. I'm like, sure. And this came about. So it's really, I'm excited to talk to you
Yeah,
today.
I was normally I convince people to just hop on a normal Zoom call. And I think with you, I had already decided in the back of my head, this person would be great on my podcast. Let's just like go for it without even actually knowing who she is and talking to her. So I think I was like, yeah, you want to hang out on a call? Actually, do you want to do a podcast?
Sure.
So I appreciate you being willing to hop on here. You know, outside of knowing that you have a really great LinkedIn profile and that you work with coaching, it seems like sales and business owners essentially. I don't know a whole lot outside of what you do. So can you maybe give me a breakdown? This is the first time I'm hearing you hearing about who you are. So help me understand that.
Sure. So I'm Karen Grill, and I'm a business coach and persuasion strategist. So what I found with working with coaches, consultants, and service providers is that in the end, their problems all led kind of to sales. They weren't able to get the clients or sell the courses that they wanted to. And so I really tried to do a deep dive in figuring out other ways that I could help my clients and help myself as well. And so that's when I cut down the path of becoming a certified master persuader. So learning all about persuasion strategy, which is different than what most people kind of do. They use different words or they use different design to try to encourage people to buy their offers. This is really looking deeper at kind of the psychological triggers that help people make the decision to then buy from you. So that's my
You
background.
said you became a master persuader, like there's an actual certification for that?
Yeah, so there's a certification program for persuasion strategists, and it's called Certified Master Persuader. And it's a 6 months course. We have to do a lot of work and research and learning. We have a lot of case studies that we do as well, kind of reviewing offers and sales pages and funnels and webinars, and really looking at ways that we can make those tweaks so that they can be more effective and convert better.
So the program is based around it being for sales, but that seems like a really scary, like, I don't know, title. Like, yeah, I got certified in persuasion, and I would be like, for what? What are you gonna make me do? What do like? I mean, are there people that use it for other things than sales? Like, I guess just to make things
The
happen?
program
Is it? I mean, it's kind of like deal making in general, and I guess in deal making, there's always something being traded. We just don't call it sales. We call it uh,
Right.
negotiations and peace talks or something like that, right?
So this was definitely focused on online businesses. So it's, definitely kind of that sales part. And again, I would make a distinction between persuasion, which is an intent for me to help you make the right decision, the best decision for you, then manipulation, which is something completely different, where the intent is not anything that's good for you. They're not serving their clients. It's all about them. So definitely persuasion is just trying to make sure that you're showcasing your offer or whatever you have the best way so that your ideal buyers can make the best decision and then make that purchase from you.
Okay. Before getting your certification, had you been working in sales, or what kind of led to, I guess, taking that next step? Because you're the first person I've ever talked to that took a step like that. Maybe most people are just okay with kind of the standard sales training, but where were you at before that?
Sure. So I was a business coach, and I've been a business coach for quite a while. Like, I started my first online business over 14 years ago. And so I've kind of been around, and I've learned a lot of things, made a lot of mistakes, and really got to the point where I was helping other business owners. But again, I really felt like there was kind of some gaps. And I also thought, persuasion strategist is a little different, so I can position myself a little differently than just the average business coach, right? It's kind of finding that special, unique offer that I have for them. It's a little different than other people. So that kind of was what attracted me to that. And, helping myself because I can improve my offers as well, but also then helping my clients so I can serve them.
Okay. When it came to being a business coach, were there certain things that you helped them with, or that's really intriguing to me,
Mm-hmm.
for reasons that I haven't explained to anyone yet. Uh,
Okay.
but what when someone is looking for a business coach like that, are they usually looking for someone who just is kind of a jack of all trades in all things from sales to finances to procurement or whatever in logistics, or do
Mm-hmm.
they usually look for a business coach that's siloed? And is that kind of how that went? Like you were a jack of all trades, and then you're like, you know what? We're gonna go just this very specific silo.
Mm-hmm. So when I first became a business coach, I was definitely more generalized. But when you start to work with people, you kind of start to see the types of clients that you can serve the best. So I definitely worked with service providers. And a lot of times what would happen is they would start their business, they would get a couple clients, and then they would be working 24/7. They didn't have any systems in place. They weren't good at time management. So it was really kind of putting those business foundations in place to help them with that so that then they could serve their clients how they wanted to, but still have time for a life, as well as then being able to grow and scale. Because if you don't have that foundation, you can't do that. So that's really where I started in working more and more with kind of those service providers. But as you can imagine, once we kind of get the foundations, there's other issues that come up for them. And one of them was, how can I sell better? I have this website or I have this offer. It's not converting. It's even not even doing the 1% to 3%, which is average. So, how can I do that better? And so that's kind of then how I did even a little more niching down.
I see. Very cool. Okay. You said you work mostly with service providers. That, I mean, kind of falls under, say, like a freelancer for like creative services, or would that be like lawyers, accountants, like service providers that way, or what does that all encompass?
Sure. So I work with a lot of other coaches as well, but service providers like graphic designers, website designers, accountants. So someone who does a lot of one-on-one work with someone or has kind of that service like a graphic designer would for another business owner as well.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I mean, I feel like we're talking to the right person here. I'm really excited for what our main purpose of this podcast is, which is help us help the community that is going to watch these and listen to these podcasts, figure out maybe some life hacks or some business hacks or just some real like solid tangible things that they can do to just be better. I bet you've seen
Right.
things across the board, and you probably, after this much time working with businesses, have just been like, "Hey, here's your top 10. Like, if you're not doing these, you're not winning. Like, here's the base."
Right.
Could you share any of those with us?
Oh, most definitely. So, because I worked with a lot of different types of businesses, there was a common denominator, and a lot of them had to do with kind of productivity and time management. So, one of the things that I think is so important is really figuring out what are your boundaries. So, a lot of people don't even set office hours, but I think it's so important. You need to know so that your clients don't encroach, because as you know, sometimes, especially in the beginning, when you're trying to get clients, you'll take anybody and everybody. A lot of times they will go beyond what you had maybe listed. They'll call you at night, they'll send you a text any time of day. So I think it's so important that you figure out for yourself, okay, what am I willing to do and what am I not willing to do? So set those business hours if that works for you. I have a business phone that I turn off on the weekends and I leave in the drawer, so I don't even have to think about that. If I decide to, that's my choice, but that's very different than having to react to everything that everyone does for
Yeah.
you. So I think one of the best things you can do is figure out that boundary for
Do you
yourself.
find why do people struggle with that? You mentioned, you just take anything and everything you can, especially when you're first starting out. Is it that fear of missing out on a sale, or is it uh, just a fear of being like tagged as non-responsive? What is it usually that stops people from doing that?
So I work with a lot of people who I would describe as perfectionists, and so they definitely want to have the best service that they're offering to their clients and really stand above everyone else, which is a great quality to have. But again, there needs to be limits to that as well. And so you need to figure out a way, okay, you can call me until 5 or whatever that is, but you need to put that boundary and then stick to it, because when you let them cross that boundary, that's when it goes down.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you see that, you hear about it. I've experienced it when I had a job, right? When you let your boss start calling you and texting you at 8, 9 o'clock at night, you think you gotta respond. And I think, well, hopefully the Great Resignation, right, that's going on right now. I don't doubt that it's little things like that motivate some of that people are like, I'm really done with this. You mean there's companies that won't text me in the middle of the night and like won't stress me out before I go to bed? Like, oh, cool. All right. But okay, so I think that's really great. And at the end of the day, if most people I would think like went off on their own and started their own business because they wanted to have more control over when they work. So it's funny actually hearing that, oh, well, actually a lot of people just let their business hours be whenever. So.
Right. And, it's a slippery slope, right? You think, I'll just answer this one, or I'll just do this one thing for them after hours. But then you're setting, the expectation that you're willing to do that. So it's so important, I think, just from the very beginning with your clients, set the expectation. These are my working hours. That's the only hours I'm available. If you catch me on Friday after 5 p.m., then I'll catch you on Monday. So you just need to make sure you spell everything out from the beginning, I think. And I think when you start out in business, you're a little afraid to say those things, right? You're not quite as confident. You haven't had that experience yet of doing that. So if you can do it from the very beginning, you'll save yourself a lot of headaches.
That's great. That's great. Any other tips you want to throw out there for us?
Sure. So one thing that I've noticed a lot is there's a lot of people who will say you need to wake up at 5 a.m. to be productive, or there's these kind of definitive things you have to do to be successful in business. And I would challenge that a little bit, because I really have found working with a lot of different types of clients, you need to know yourself, right? So I always say you need to work with your brain. I say this all the time to my clients, because everyone's a little different. I can't get up at 5 a.m. and be productive, because if you have children and you've been up all night, you just don't get enough sleep as it is, right? So you need to figure out what works best for your brain, for your body, for your kind of life, right? So I definitely recommend you think about and really start tuning in. So like, when do I write the best? So if you need to write posts, for LinkedIn, let's say, when do you do that best? For me, I'm not good at writing first thing in the morning. I'm not a morning person. And so my brain just isn't functioning well enough to write those posts. So instead, are you the same guy? Not just me. So instead, I put those, as a block of time later in the day. And that works for me. Some people are fantastic at writing in the morning. So do those things that you do best at the best times for you, right? Really figure that out. I remember when I first started, I did a super detail-oriented task first thing in the morning. And I just couldn't do it. It was taking me double the time. And I just felt like I was like going through quicksand or something. Like it just wasn't working. And I kept trying to do it. And finally I said, what am I doing? I really need to figure out, this is not working. Let's do something else. So when I switched it up and did like going on LinkedIn in the morning first thing and commenting, that's kind of a lighter task. I could do that first thing in the morning, that's fine. And then I did those other tasks later in the day. So I really hope, we're talking a lot about work-life balance, right? So really think about working with your brain, making sure you're making it the best way that it can work, right? To be as efficient as possible so that you can do the work you love, serve the clients that you like to do, but then have that time for yourself to recharge as well.
I love that. Oh, that's good. I think maybe we should just promote this episode just like that chunk. Yeah, that's great. I mean, we hear a lot of people saying that, and let's just keep on saying it, right? Eventually, like more and more workplaces and people in general will start listening, and hopefully we see that quality of life just increase, which would be really great to see a lot of people just living their best life, right?
For sure.
Now, I don't know if you were prepared for this, but would you, as a someone who's a master in persuasion, would you give any tips to salespeople or account execs as they are going into sales meetings or making cold calls or whatever? Is there something that you notice that in on average, people are forgetting that you're like, don't forget this.
Mhm.
This is something you have to do. Anything you want to throw out there for us?
Sure. So one of the things that you notice a lot, like I've reviewed over 100 kind of offers and things like that. I think people forget that you need to really understand your clients, issues and problems and pain points. And a lot of times we look at the superficial ones, and they'll even tell us the superficial ones. But typically, if you dig a little bit deeper, there's something deeper there. That's the actual issue. So if you could really dig down to that, whatever you're presenting them, whether it's on a sales call or whether you're on a sales page, if you can really show that you understand their actual pain and the actual problem that they're going through, that you will be much more likely to make that sale. You can't focus on just the features. I think we get so focused on, I can offer you this, 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 and this, right? But instead, you want to flip that and show them that you understand what they're going through, right? And that it's that deeper issue that they have. So it takes a little bit more time and a little bit more research for you in terms of before you cold call, if you can try to figure some of those things out in advance, or if you're trying to build a sales page to really figure out, talk with some of those people, talk with those clients and really kind of dig further. They might say, oh, I'm bad at time management. A lot of times it's something else is the issue, right?
Sure.
So really dig down. That will make you be able to convert
Sure.
better.
Sure. That makes total sense. I know right now I'm, end of the year. If you don't realize that probably a large motivator for or hindrance, roadblock, rather, for people is a mixture of just being absolutely stressed out with
Yeah.
everything else going on. And now you're like, hey, I need to add a few things to your to-do list. And they're like, huh? But also just the amount of energy that people have to be able to be
Right.
creative on their end. I think that is one of my favorite things about my role in advertising sales is that I get to approach people and be like, wait a second, I took time today to sit down and brainstorm for you. So let me be creative
Right.
for you. And I'm fortunate enough to have been in a creative role prior to coming into advertising. And so it's a pretty easy switch for me, right? To just generate ideas and have them say, I like it or I don't like it. And I'm like, great, cool, right? But it's something as simple as
But
that.
you're taking the burden off of them.
Totally,
Yeah, that's
totally.
great.
And
Hmm.
understanding your customer and saying, "Hey, what is it likely that would cause them from not wanting to do this?" Because a lot of times, at least with our platforms, it's not a matter of like them deciding whether or not our audience is who they want to reach or not. It 100% is, and they know
Hmm.
it. It's more like, do I have the funding for it? And at the end of the year, either they do or they don't, right? And if they do, then Jesse, it's like 2 weeks before the end of the year, man. I'm going on, I got Christmas presents to
You
buy.
gotta go away.
Like, this isn't happening. And so, and the funny thing is, that is generally the excuse, not the excuse, but the reason all year long, right? Is okay, well, now it's Valentine's Day, or now kids are going on spring break, or whatever, right? There's always something vying for your time. And so, I think as a salesperson, yeah, really truly understanding, hey, how can I actually help you do this? Because there's really only one thing I need, and that's a sale. So,
Right. But if you can take that burden off of them and kind of flip it around and say, how would I help you? Let me show you how I can help you. I think that's a totally different kind of balance of the powers and the kind of energy that you project. And that's different than saying, I just want the sale from you. You're always asking from them. And then flipping that around, I think, is a great way to do
totally,
that.
totally. I leave this one thing here. I was emailing back and forth with a client, and noticed, hey, I could tell something was going on here. That it was, you had the money, you knew that like the campaign and the publication you wanted to be in was right. All the dots were connecting, but you could tell something was off. And I think I sent this email like an hour ago, and I was like, look, I know that you're probably headed out soon. If we need help with this, I have a designer on standby, like, for this directly. Literally, you don't have to go find the design. Like, hop on for like 15 minutes with me, and I'll write everything down. in the car, anything, right? And so we'll see. Cross our fingers and find out if, oh, that was finally it. Yeah, we didn't want to go through the work of finding a designer. Sometimes it's things like that, right? There's just a lot more work
Yeah.
than we realize is involved. So, well, awesome. Thank you, Karen. Anything else? I don't want to leave anything on the table that you weren't willing to share. I mean, I don't doubt that you have a ton more, which is obviously why people hire you to work with them. So thank you so much for those nuggets. I appreciate it, and I hope people find those useful. Now, as people can find you on LinkedIn, obviously, like I did, you're open to connecting, and you're based on the East Coast. Am I right in thinking that?
Yep, I'm in the Washington, D.C.
Okay.
area.
And but obviously working with clients all over the country.
Yep, I'm a virtual business, so I can work with anybody.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Jesse.